Hi everyone, Charlene Ortiz here. Today I wanted to discuss appropriate bent over row form and bent over row variations. I wanted to do this video because this is an exercise that I see performed improperly at the gym all the time. And it's definitely a very popular exercise that a lot of people like to do. But if it's not done properly, you're putting yourself at risk for injuring your lower back, as well as the upper part of your back if you're not in the appropriate position. So I'm going to discuss how to perform the movement properly and all the different things that you need to be aware of, and different variations of the movement that you can do, and again, how to maintain the appropriate position, specifically neutral spine, while you're performing this exercise. So first I'm going to start with a demonstration in the most basic form of a bent over row. So the bent over row is pretty much the same as the upright row, and I demonstrated that movement in detail in my video, how to perform the most common back exercises. And so if you want to check that video out, I do talk about the specifics on how to do a row properly, which I will review as I'm demonstrating the bent over row. But keep in mind, the bent over row is a little bit more of an advanced exercise. And so if you're not comfortable with doing just the basic upright row, just standing upright or even in a seated position, I do not recommend attempting a bent over row position, because if you're not comfortable with maintaining a neutral spine position, if you're not able to maintain your shoulders are back and down, keeping the appropriate neutral position, as well as activating that transverse abdominis where you're pulling that belly button into your spine, if you're not at a point where you can maintain this position for an extended amount of time, do not attempt bent over row yet. Wait until you've gotten good at getting into neutral spine and maintaining this position when you're under any type of stressful situation, like exercise or you're doing any type of resistance training. So you need to make sure that you can maintain the appropriate posture with the basic upright row before you go onto something that's in a bent over position, because being in a bent over position is going to put more stress in your low back. Just the nature of this position puts more stress on your low back. And I think all of us can agree when we're bent over, if we have any type of back issues or back pain, we definitely feel our back aching or starting to spasm or hurt when we're in this position. And then when you add resistance or any type of weight, that just exacerbates the stress on your lower back, especially if you're doing a rear delt row, which I'll talk about that in a second. So again, it is essential that you understand how to maintain neutral spine, how to activate your transverse abdominis. And I go into detail about this in my video that I did very early on, several months ago, on how to strengthen your posture and your abdominal muscles and reduce back pain. So this is a video that I did very early on. And so you can check that video out, and I'll try to remember to put it at the annotations at the end of this video so that you can click on that and check that video out first. So, all right, so first I'm going to start with the most basic form of a bent over row. So a bent over row movement is going to be activating primarily your rhomboid muscles will be a primary mover with this exercise. Your bicep muscle, as well as your medial deltoid. Trapezius, rear deltoid will be accessory muscles, as well as the lat muscle too. And so the most common and most stable way to perform a bent over row is going to be bent over on any type of bench. I'm just using my coffee table right here, where your knee is up, one leg is up and the other leg is behind you, supporting you, and you're supporting yourself with one hand. So this will be the most popular and most supported version of a bent over row. So if you're just learning how to do the bent over row, I recommend that you first start with an apparatus where you can get full support before you go on to other versions, which I will go over here in a second. All right, so with the bent over row, all the same rules are going to apply as would apply with the upright row. Like I said, I discussed in detail in my back video. So before you begin your movement, like every other exercise, you want to make sure that you get into your neutral position, where your shoulders are back and down, your back is just in a slight arched position like it's supposed to be in a neutral, okay? And your abdominal muscles are pulled in. So remember to activate that transverse abdominis, you want to envision that there is a string attached to your belly button and it's pulling that belly button back in toward your spine. So like any other row movement, first you'll start with the retraction and then you'll bring the weight up to right where your hip is. All right, and then you'll release. And you also want to make sure that your body is staying in a nice stable position, meaning you're not doing this or any type of variation of that or anything like that. So again, neutral spine needs to be maintained throughout the whole movement. So again, you're doing your retraction, pulling it up. The elbow is staying close to my body, and my wrist is also staying in a neutral position, meaning my wrist is not bending like this when I'm pulling up. And so as far as the elbow, again, you want to make sure it stays in close to your body, that your elbow's not going out to the side. Because keeping it in close to your body is going to engage the rhomboid muscle to its maximum contraction. So if you really want to engage those muscles and really get a good contraction, you want to make sure that elbow is staying in close to your body. And I just wanted to give you a little frontal view of that movement there. And also, in our neutral spine, which is what I talk about this. I talk about neutral spine in pretty much every exercise video that I do. You also want to make sure that your neck is staying in neutral as well when you're performing the movement, and that you're not lifting your head up like this, okay? Because this position right here will compress the cervical vertebrae. And remember, neutral spine starts all the way from the bottom of the skull all the way down through the sacrum. So that means even in a bent over position, your neck also maintains that position. So that is going to be the most common and the most well-supported version of a bent over row. Another version would be just standing, you know, in an upright position, just a free position where you're not being supported at all, and you're just retracting and pulling the weight up, again, just freely without any type of support. And this right here, again, is going to take a tremendous ability to maintain your neutral spine in that bent over position. Now, you can also use any other type of surface, like I'm using my buffet right here. As long as you're able to bend over enough where your body is parallel to the floor, because in that way, you're going directly up against gravity, which is going to give you the best resistance for this movement. So you can use something, you know, like I'm using right here, if you want to. But keep in mind, that won't give you as much support than if you're on a bench or a table or some type of apparatus like this. And so another variation would be to do it on a cable machine. So I'm going to be using my tubing right here, and with all of the workouts that I do on my videos, I do talk about how using tubing at home would be the same as what you would do with the cable machine at the gym. So whether you have tubing at home that you want to use or you're using a cable machine at the gym, the same rules are going to apply. So I have my tubing right here, and I have the anchor shut in the door, and I talk about that in detail in my other workout videos. So if I'm going to be doing it like this, again with my tubing or at the gym with the cable machine, my position won't be as far bent over as when I'm doing it on a bench or just, you know, with a free weight. And the reason is because where the direction of resistance is coming from is going to be different. So gravity isn't necessarily going to be the main factor that's going to provide the resistance. In this case, it's going to be the tautness of the band. If you're using a cable machine, because the cables are attached to a stack of weights, the weights are just going up and down, so they're already positioned to go directly against gravity anyways. And so your position with the cable or with the tubing right here would be more at like a 45-degree angle to line up appropriately so that your position lines up from where the resistance is coming from. So again, all the same rules are going to apply. My abs are pulled in tight, my shoulders are down in my neutral, my knees are slightly bent. I'm going to retract and pull back. Again, my wrists are staying in neutral, my shoulders are staying down, my elbows are staying in close to my body, and I want to keep my position of my arms following the alignment of my hip, a little bit lower, like that. And again, my neck is staying in neutral, I'm not lifting my head up like this. And I'm keeping my belly button pulled in nice and tight to give my body the support that it needs. So that would be another variation. And you can also do this one arm at a time on a cable machine, which will challenge your core a little bit more, just because you're going to have to stabilize yourself with one side of your body being pulled by the resistance. And also if you have a strength imbalance, which most of us do, this will help to even out any strength imbalances just because you're doing it independently one side at a time. And another variation would be doing it on an unstable surface, like a Bosu right here. And so this is definitely a great way to challenge your core strength. But again, I can't stress this enough. I can make sure that your ability to maintain neutral spine and activate your transverse abdominis is really good before you attempt any type of unstable surface like this. But again, this is a great way to challenge you to do this movement. So getting into my bent over position, again, the same thing as if I had two weights, I would do my bent over row just like this. Or if you had maybe a bar, you can also use a straight bar. Of course, I don't have a straight bar, but you know, just imagining that this is a whole bar, the same rules would apply, but you want to think about bringing the bar up underneath your rib cage if you are using a straight bar, okay? So again, this is just another variation, just using an unstable surface. And you can also use an unstable surface if you're using the cable machine at the gym. And the Bosu is definitely a tool that I use a lot in all my training sessions, and it's definitely a great investment. So again, this will be a great way just to challenge your balance and stability while performing bent over row. Okay? So the Bosu is a wonderful tool, and if you are not a member of a gym, but you're wanting to start exercising from home, obviously you're going to need some equipment to do that. And so you'd want to check out my video, How to Build a Home Gym for Under $50. And I show you all the different pieces of equipment that will be essential for a home gym that is very affordable, that would all together be under $50. Now a Bosu would be another wonderful addition. A typical brand name Bosu will run you about $100 to $150. Now this one is a knockoff version, but it's worked wonderfully for me. And I got this for $40 and I love it, it's great. And so again, if you are building a home gym right now and you don't have a whole lot of money, for under $100 you can get a tubing, a ball, bands, you can get a lot of different pieces of equipment, including a Bosu, for under $100 and have a really nice home gym. So, but again, that's another variation. So if you're going to be doing a bent over row movement, you have to be very cautious with the movement like a rear delt row. So a rear delt row is going to have different rules than a basic, just standard row. With the rear delt row, there's no retraction, but we do have our arm further out in front of us, and with this movement, our elbow is going out to the side of our body to, you know, focus more on the rear delts, and the trapezius muscle will be a little bit more engaged with this movement. And again, in my video, how to properly perform the most common back exercises, I do specifically talk in depth about how to do a rear delt row, but more in the upright position. So again, if you are someone that has any type of low back problems, weakness, or pain, do not do bent over rear delt row. It will absolutely kill your back. Wait until you get strong enough, until you build up the strength in your abdominal muscles to give your back the support, until you're able to develop the muscles that will help to, you know, get you into neutral spine and maintain that position. Wait until you're able to do that, because anytime you're bent over and you have a weight extended in front of you, puts a tremendous amount of stress on your low back. And if you're not someone that suffers from any type of low back problems or weakness, it should be fine. But if you do, I highly caution you to stay away from a bent over rear delt row until, again, you've built up the necessary strength and ability to protect your low back in that position. So, all right, guys, so that is, again, the appropriate way to perform a bent over row as well as bent over row variations. If you have any questions about what I did today, please comment below, and I will address any type of comments or concerns that you might have if I didn't answer all your questions or you're still confused about certain things or what have you. So, all right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. As always, I appreciate your time and attention. Remember, take care of yourself, protect yourself physically and emotionally, and don't forget, your health is your most valuable asset. Invest in it. Bye-bye.